work that we do is important to keep people and our economy moving. It means working on behalf of Network Rail and other clients in built-up inner cities, rural communities, and sometimes in the middle of nowhere to keep the rail network running. Each location has its own challenges. We work really hard to make sure we're good to go before we set our people to work. For us, that means checking that our people are competent, understand their role, have the right tools and equipment in place, that they're familiar with the location and experienced in the task that's to be undertaken. To make sure our people are continuously up to date and competent, we provide mandatory training as well as bespoke supervisor and controller of site safety programs. One of the things that standard training doesn't provide is that real-time experience in how to manage an incident on site.
Thankfully, we've not experienced a serious accident within my team, but I think it's good exposure to the team to understand what happens and how it feels and what we need to do. It gives people exposure to see what an incident feels like and actually go through the motions of what we would do on site, but in a controlled environment.
We hope that our operatives never need to put this experience into action. However, we wanted to create something that might help, whether that be at work or not. This video is the result of a simulated incident developed in partnership between Amco Giffen and Elle. Our aim is to help you experience an emergency on site and help you understand how to deal with it. It's mandatory when working in a worksite that each shift begins with an in-depth briefing from the engineering supervisor, also known as an ES, to the person in charge and all other safety roles. Then the person in charge briefs the working group on worksite limits and the task. This must include the location, the operational risks involved, other work taking place nearby, and all emergency arrangements. The engineering supervisor, ES, is accountable for setting up the worksite. The person in charge, also known as a PIC, is involved in planning as well as being on site when work is taking place. They have overall accountability for supervising and overseeing works and making sure plan controls are put in place to keep everyone safe from trains, activity and site risks. The PIC will normally be the team leader or equivalent and hold controller of site safety competence, also known as COS. They're certified as competent to enable activities to be carried out by a group of persons on the rail network. On track, the Plant Operations Scheme Representative, or POS, makes sure the plant is being used with the on-track plant plan and POS rules, with the correct exclusion zones in accordance with the plant pack. The crane controller, or the lifting machine operator, manages the road rail vehicle, RRV, and the lifts. The machine controller, MC, manages the mobile elevated working platform, MUP. The pile has already been installed on a previous shift and we're returning to install the steel structure. We have a lifting machine and mobile elevating work platform side by side on the site. The crane controller attaches lifting equipment to the steel structure and raises it from a horizontal position on the floor into a vertical position in the air. The lifting machine offers the steel structure to the pile foundation, which is bolted and secured. The mobile elevating work platform is raised with an operative inside the basket. Their job is to release the lifting equipment from the top of the mast and the lifting machine. Work is well underway. The bolts are in place and the crane is moving off-site, maintaining exclusion zone, and is in constant view of the operator. Communication is by DECT comms, Digital Enhanced Cordless Telecommunications. The operator suddenly slips to the floor, passed out. Immediately, the mobile elevating work platform machine controller alerts the person in charge. He then follows the emergency recovery procedure and lowers the MUP basket to ground level. First aider checks the operative for injury and decides that he needs medical attention. He's still unconscious and he can't be moved. The person in charge follows the emergency arrangements from the briefing he gave at the start of the shift and directs an operative to call emergency services. He then directs another operative to meet the ambulance so they can be brought to the scene safely and quickly. We'll explain to emergency services how far the incident is from the access point when we call 999. As the emergency services arrive on the scene, they're greeted, briefed on compound and track hazards, and taken to the site where they attend to the operative. The emergency services are in place and carrying out their assessment. We always suggest that someone travels in the ambulance or follows on. The site team now remobilises and sets about following their safety plan, making sure all the necessary safety measures are in place to clear the site and inform the necessary personnel. This type of incident demonstrates how important our start of shift briefings are and the roles we all have in case of an emergency. Setting up our teams to fully understand this and to be able to act on it calmly and in control is absolutely vital.
Basically, we've been trying to create a little bit of awareness around what can potentially go wrong within the railway environment. You can't always practice these scenarios within live rail environments. They do happen. It's hard to train. There's lots of training within the industry that a lot of people go through, but to actually do it in as live as an environment as we possibly could, I think it's been a great experience. It gives everybody that insight as to how challenging it can be and what people do need to be aware of, and to see how the training does come into play when it's required.
It gave us like insight, how would you react when something like this would happen? Because if you don't follow plan method, you may end up, finding some other risks that weren't in the plan method, and something would go wrong.
I think everybody needs refreshing regular, really, because it's just human nature. You forget things, don't you?
I've been on a railway 20 years, so I've never done anything like this before, so it's been a good learning curve. It's when you go out on site, you don't really think, oh, what happens if he collapses on track? What would he do? So it's a good experience and good thing to do, yeah, because it's a dangerous environment and you could save someone's life.
Always make sure that you're fit for work. Always actively participate in your start of shift briefing. Always consider your role and your reaction in an emergency. And finally, always stop work if it's unsafe.